Have you ever met someone who is just not like you at all? They're a planner and you're not, or they like meeting new people and you just can't stand it, or they seem to notice things you would never even think of. In contrast, maybe you know someone that you swear has the exact same brain as you. The way you think is just exactly alike. There's a way to categorize people like that. Well, actually, there's many ways to categorize people, but we're focusing on one of the most popular ways to define one's personality: the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. This test is specifically designed to tell you about you. You might recall a psychologist named Carl Jung. He's known as one of the fathers of psychology. He proposed that what appears to be a random behavior is actually the result of the differences in the way people prefer to use their mental capacities. From there, Isabel Briggs Meyer and her mother, Catherine Briggs, identified and described 16 different personality types based off the interactions among preferences described by Carl Jung. The first is extroverted versus introverted. Extroverts get their energy from spending time with other people, and introverts get their energy from being alone. The second is sensing versus intuition. Sensing individuals process information based off basic information they take in, and intuitive individuals process information based on interpretation and added meaning. The third is thinking versus feeling. Thinking individuals make decisions based on logic and consistency, and feeling individuals make decisions based on people and circumstances. The fourth is judging versus perceiving. Judging individuals prefer to make solidified decisions, and perceiving individuals prefer to stay open to new information and options. We'll be exploring 3 stories of people with very different Myers-Briggs personality types. By the way, this is our expert Carol Collendorf. She'll be guiding us through each segment. The first is about a couple. Let's start with Victoria and Shane. They're happily married with 2 kids.
Hi, I'm Shane Geigels, married to this beautiful lady right here, Victoria, and this is our baby, Emmy Lou, who's feisty.
I'm an INTJ. My husband's an INTP. I think I always knew that. That's what drew me to him, that he was introverted and intuitive and a thinker.
They actually have every letter in common, except for the last one: how they approach the outside world. Victoria is judging and Shane is perceiving. This means Victoria prefers solidified decisions and feels obliged to commitments.
I would say I'm extremely loyal. When I say I'm going to do something, I do it, unless menial things get in the way, but I typically feel absolutely obligated to follow through with my commitments. I have to finish what I start. Otherwise, I can't leave anything open-ended. And that can be a strength in a lot of things, particularly in projects.
Shane, on the other hand, prefers flexibility over organized plans.
While I have a clear, thought-out end goal in mind, and I try to be creative in how we get there, especially this year, putting it down on paper has not always been my strong suit either. I have a tendency to want to not put it down, I guess because I don't want to be glued to something. I want to have the ability to change as we go along, and I fear that putting it on paper will make it too concrete.
INTJs tend to be much more schedule driven, will be much more likely to be planful about how time is spent with a couple. You know, do we have plans for the weekend? Do we know what we're doing for Thanksgiving? When are we getting to somebody's house for Thanksgiving? Those things matter to J's and INTJs, not so much to P's.
They're both introverts, which isn't surprising because they both seem to dread social interaction.
And stuff that we have in common more than anything is I think both of us can sit in a room and be quiet, not have to, and we don't offend each other. We love kind of keeping to ourselves. We dislike groups of people.
No offense to anybody.
I mean, if you see us, like we just recently went to a wedding and we found the back freaking table, like in Wedding Singers, where that group that just kind of is offset. I mean, that was us. We go and we park ourselves back there and kind of make ourselves anonymous. And so we agree upon a lot of those things.
Victoria worked briefly as a counselor and now does modeling.
I graduated college and actually got a job as a director of a drug outreach. And that ended up not working out. I lasted about 9 months because it seems every time I go into a place, I will try and change everything about the system, the way that they operate, and that happened there as well. And then also why I was so concerned with, you know, the system and how we delivered services, how we kept records, how we kept data. I was doing everything but counseling, basically, in a nutshell.
INTJs are, by nature, they are builders of models, but they can also find in organizations that there are things that they don't like about the models of how things happen in that organization because it feels maybe inefficient. INTJs don't like inefficiency, or it feels maybe too soft or too squishy. INTJs like precision.
I got another job doing the exact same thing and had the same problems arise. So I can tell you right now that if I went to go work for, you know, another person, I would do the exact same thing. And I do have very specific examples of times that I was just very, I guess, what they would consider inappropriate because I was hired to counsel people. But I guess being an INTJ, I think I don't feel, and that may be the worst counselor in the world.
The human connection can be a challenge for them. They don't feel as confident in that. They don't feel as comfortable. So when they're in a job that requires a lot of that, it can be pretty uncomfortable and stressful for them.
Now keeping the books, I was very talented at making statistics, coming up with statistics. I was very talented at organizing, alphabetizing, everything else, but counseling, I was.
Yeah, INTJs, because they like to build these abstract models, they're great at categorization. They're great at seeing organizational patterns for data or for concepts, for ideas.
Shane recently took a new position as the head football coach, which he said has exposed some of his weaknesses.
Condescending. I've really had to watch my tone in dealing with other people. It's I guess that's one of the weaknesses. I think I'm right a lot of times, and I think it's good in confidence. You know, I think that I'm confident in what I believe, but I don't always do the best job conveying that delicately. And not only does that cause some conflict in the professional part, obviously with my wife. She likes to be right as well, so that creates a lot of conflict too.
INTPs will tend to sometimes be a little snarky when they want to make an observation about someone. It can come across as kind of cutting. It may not be the intent, but that's often the feedback the INTP will get, is that it was a hurtful comment or it was taken in a way that they did not intend.
Not only are these personality types similar, but their differences complement each other.
So for instance, INTJs, they like to build models, mental models. They like to find mental models. Where they can run into trouble is that they may fall in love with a mental model that doesn't explain all the facts. And so they don't see the things that don't fit into it. INTPs actually see those things, because INTPs see things that don't make sense. So in that case, he might see some things that he could point out, and she would need to really pay attention and listen to that.
So, welcome. There's 3 of us, so there are 3 beds. 1, 2, 3.
This is Losa.
Kind of
Her and her 2 friends live on this bus.
storage and equipment-ish stuff on this side.
Out There Productions is a mobile creative agency operating out of a renovated school bus. We have this really cool 8-month road trip across the United States planned, and we're currently on month 2.
Erin asked me to like help her out with some videos, and then I did. And she's like, "Oh, this idea to make Out There Productions," and I was like, "Oh, that's awesome."
Losa actually has the rarest personality type of the 16, INFJ.
Hi, my name is Losa Drew, and my personality type is INFJ. Something that's really important to me is always being true to myself and what I really want to do in life.
So they kind of have a little mantra of "to thine own self be true," and that's a really big deal to them.
So the part of my personality that made me interested in performing arts and film is the creativity aspect and the expression aspect.
Yeah, INFJs are very values-driven decision makers. They have a very rich internal life.
What makes me happy is something I need to keep doing. So what makes me happy, as I discovered when I grew up, is creative expression and being able to have like personal freedom to not like just not join like the corporate world.
I find INFJs are often very uncomfortable in the corporate environment. Our work is mostly corporate, and we don't find a lot of INFJs.
So that helped me realize, like, okay, so if I want to be happy as a person, then I have to do this. Like, I have no other choice to not do filmmaking, because if I'm not doing something that involves creative expression, like, I'll just not be happy. Like, I'll feel unsatisfied.
And that internal life is a lot about values and connection with people, smaller numbers of people.
Yeah, because I'm working with a group of 2 people who I know pretty well, and that to me is basically like my way of recharging, is like being alone and being with them. I'm able to go meet other people. So with our job, we have to meet a lot of people, entrepreneurs and people like business owners, and go to events where we like are constantly networking all the time, and that's okay because I know that I don't have to do that all the time.
INFJs tend to have a small-ish inner circle of people that they're really comfortable with.
INFJs have such a rich internal world that they have to be careful not to get stuck in it.
You know, we're constantly driving to new places and like exploring, and like exploring helps me with like the whole extroverted sensing thing of like getting out of my headspace and like being stuck by like physically actually like being somewhere new and exploring and being different places. If I don't get out of my own head or my own space, then I get stuck just like thinking and analyzing and not doing anything. And the only way to fix that is to go out into the world instead of like staying in my room on my computer or whatever, and like actually do something, like go exercise, go dance, go watch a movie, like get out into society.
All intuitives are suspect to that they're subject to that. They can get stuck in their own heads because it's very interesting in there, and they're drawn to that. What she's doing by drawing herself out is keeping balance, which is a really good thing, and kind of taking a break from all of that interior world, which is also a good thing. And she's doing it in ways that are really, really interesting and healthy. So she's exercising. Exercise is more of a sensory experience because it's physical, it's tactile. Going into nature, again, it's more of a sensory experience. It's going out and seeing this beautiful thing. It's connecting with this flower, with this mountain, with this river, which are all sensory rather than intuitive things. So by using sensory activities to draw herself out from inside her own head, she's actually connecting to an external reality and more or less taking a break from that internal reality.
Losa believes that filmmaking is what she's destined to do.
Being behind the camera complements my personality type because I think very visually, and like what I do is I want to show people like how I see things and what my vision is. So it's always really satisfying to just something that I see and like I'm creating and I'm showing you behind the camera is then seen and like appreciated and understood by other people. Like I love making people happy, so it allows me to do that, but also not like be out in the spotlight and be like, oh, this is me. It's like I still get to know people without all the, I don't know, in my own comfort zone in a way.
I think being behind the camera is very INFJ, and they're just really, really good at it because I think that is a way and a place that their creativity is exercised, because they do have this almost uncanny ability to understand the human condition and understand another human being. And then I think to be able to draw that out through film would probably be a really strong gift for an INFJ. So that that ability to understand humanity both individually and collectively is what makes them outstanding counselors. And I think it would also make them outstanding producers of film and documentary.
And I'm revealing who I am, like, with what I'm doing, but I'm also, like, keeping a sense of, like, self because I'm not in front of the camera. It totally allows you to have a more minimal lifestyle for sure, and get really creative on how to live in this lifestyle, like trying to plan like when you're gonna eat and like how you're gonna use the bathroom and like also how to stay clean. But yeah, it's totally worth it. It allows you to focus on what you want to do. But yeah.
Quite in contrast to our other two stories, Maddie is an extrovert.
There's a big stereotype of people that are extroverts, which is that they're like, hey, nice to meet ya, ah, look at me, ah.
She's not only outgoing, but she performs in improv shows in front of an audience quite often.
Nothing else exists right now, okay? Except for improv. And these scenes and these universes we create are now reality.
I don't really have like a fear of being in crowded rooms. I don't really have a fear of initiating conversations or making a fool of myself usually.
They energize by communication, so having people around them is helpful to keep their energy up.
I am not so good at like being alone. Like I always really like having a roommate, like having people with me. I like being in social settings.
They tend to do a lot of thinking out loud, so having people to talk to is a great way to keep on thinking for an ENFP, and it's also fun.
I like going to like crowded coffee shops, so like there's always people there and there's always people to like interact with.
So ENFPs do like the activity around them. It energizes them. It makes them feel more alive, I think. Do ENFPs like to be the center of attention? Yeah, it's been said more than once.
Something I realized, I think, while I was taking the test was sort of this idea that I really value being liked by people more than maybe I value being like having power or like being right or being the smartest person in the room. I value being liked.
The ENFPs have a strong desire to be liked and to help people. You know, they're people. I mean, they're almost the quintessential people.
I think that I get very nervous when I feel like my friends and I aren't like at a 100% awesome relationship status, and I think that kind of makes me very aware when I hang out with people and very like constantly trying to observe what they're doing and looking at behaviors, seeing like how are they responding to what I say, are they like laughing at me, do they seem engaged, do they seem like they like me, and then kind of building that up and being like, oh my god, they don't like me, no one likes me, oh boy, and so, but usually it'll just be like, oh sorry, I forgot to text you back, and I went ahead and took a lot of meaning out of that. That probably wasn't there.
Yeah, I call it the terrier on the pant leg. They can't let go of it. They just chew on it, and then they attribute massive kinds of meaning and significance to whatever it is.
I would say that my emotions control me more than I can control my emotions. I tend to let things that happen in my life really have emotional effects on me, and I just usually kind of have to ride that wave, whether it's, anger, sadness, anxiety, or even if happiness, I guess.
They may not allow themselves the time and the quiet and the space to connect with that decision-making process, in which case they can feel like they are really driven by their emotions rather than understanding their emotions.
So when Maddie first took the test a couple of years ago, her results were ENTP. When she took the test recently, she got ENFP. Her T for thinking changed to an F for feeling.
So I fluctuate between feeling and thinking.
When a person scores slight, which is 1 to 5, on any preference, there's a high likelihood that they could sort to the other side at another time they take it. Because if you score slight, you're sorting to one side, T or F, for instance, based on how you answered a handful of questions. So you could answer a handful of other questions differently next time, and you might sort to the other side. So when somebody is in that slight area, I always tell them that they're ambidextrous. They have a foot in both worlds. And sometimes probably this individual is an ENFP, and sometimes she probably is an ENTP. And she probably goes back and forth in her decision-making process between T and F.
I think that, like all parts of the test, that's something that really depends on where you're at in your life, or what recent experiences you've had. Because I definitely would say that when I was taking the test, I was using more recent experiences as sort of a guide for how I would answer, as opposed to trying to consider the entirety of my life and every choice I've made. But I think it's also very easy to lie on the test.
I think sometimes we do have to kind of battle our own kind of very subconscious desire to answer in what we think might be the most desirable or the most acceptable way. But that's just a matter of kind of working with yourself to answer who you really are. And I always tell people, go with your gut. Don't overanalyze it. Don't overthink it. What's your first reaction to that item? That's probably going to be what's truest for you.
All three of our stories have one thing in common. They're all completely unique. There are 7 billion people in the world, but only 16 Myers-Briggs personality types.
Myers-Briggs will tell you how you recharge your energy. It'll tell you what you pay attention to first. It'll tell you how you make decisions that are related to people. And it'll tell you how you prefer to manage your work and your life. What we have found is that it is the most useful in terms of application of any of the personality profile assessments. Myers-Briggs doesn't explain everything. It explains a great deal about a person's personality, but it doesn't explain the things that are a result of their upbringing, of their culture, of their choices, of their abnormalities. Myers-Briggs is about understanding yourself and other people so much that you actually want to extend the grace to others to move out of your comfort zone, out of your box, and communicate in a way that's more compatible and easier for the other person.
When you understand that there are different ways that people perceive the world, interact, and make decisions, it starts to make so much more sense when you think that something that someone does doesn't make sense. You can find out your Myers-Briggs personality type by taking a test at Personality Hacker.